Hello, I am back again. Hope you're having a good day. It's a beautiful sunny day today. The weather's getting a little bit warmer, which I'm so stoked about. Spring is in the air, so I'm excited. Hope you're excited too. Um, the song that we're going to focus on today for our devotion is the song Tremble, a powerful worship song we sing at our church, of course. We actually pre-recorded it for our online service this past Sunday, very fitting for Easter. But this song takes me back to way back in the day when I was younger, in my early 20s. I was awakened around 5 in the morning to this loud noise. It sounded like a train just going through my backyard, but it would just never stop. Also, there were loud screams. As I woke up more and came to it, the screams was my mom, and she was screaming for us to get out of bed. There was an earthquake and get under the doorway. That's what we were taught to do back then. As I put my feet on the ground, I'm knocked down to the ground, and the ground was just rolling like a wave. It wasn't one of those earthquakes that were just shaking you back and forth or jerking you. It was just like a wave, so it was difficult to get under the door. Thankfully, I did. At that time, I was in a small military town called 29 Palms, California, and that's a little town. We're about an hour or so from Palm Springs. The earthquake itself took place in a place called Landers. It's called the Landers earthquake, which was probably about, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour away from where I was at. So it was powerful where we were at. The earthquake measured at a magnitude of 7.3. That is a huge earthquake. And I've experienced earthquakes, which many of you have too, living in California, but that was huge. That was on a whole nother level. It destroyed a lot of businesses, destroyed a lot of things. There were a few deaths too, which was very sad. But this earthquake was also put on the scale of violent, which means there's a lot of damage took place. But I remember going out to Landers because that's where it hit. It was a small town, really way outside of a larger town called Yucca Valley, and it was Highway 62, which is a 2-lane road. Well, the earthquake caused the road just to open up, and there's just big gashes going down into the earth's crust, and this opening just went for miles. So I remember being there with some firefighters tossing waters over because the people on the other side had lost their power, they lost their water. They couldn't get into town. They were stuck out there. And I remember the firefighter telling me, man, this crack is going down about maybe a mile or more deeper. And that's crazy. It's so insane. But this song Tremble reminds me of that, that earthquake, that was powerful, and that was the force of nature. But coming to think about that, this power of nature does not even come close to the power of God. Not even close to it. And that's what this song talks about. The Tremble is a song that reveals the light and power of our God. And again, everybody experiences darkness ourselves. We experience darkness in different ways, in different circumstances, different levels, but they all have the same effect at the end. And that just causes issues, fear, and so many other things that go on emotionally. They affect our life. Everyone goes through those dark seasons that seem to never end when you're walking through the seasons until Jesus shows up. When Jesus shows up, he dispels that darkness. He gets rid of it. And that's what this song Tremble talks about. The definition of tremble is this: a trembling feeling, movement, or sound. Now, verse 1 says this: peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break at your name. Still, call the sea to still. The rage in me is still. Every wave at your name. In the book of Matthew and Mark, Matthew chapter 8, verses 23 through 27, and Mark chapter 4, verses 35 through 41, talks about Jesus calming the storm. And I believe we're all familiar with that. And that story talks about the disciples being in the boat. Jesus is with them too. Well, as they're in the boat, this big tempest storm just kicks in, and waves are just crashing, the wind's blowing, and the disciples are panicking because they're afraid that the boat's going to sink, it's going to flip over, and they're going to die and drown. And during this, Jesus is asleep. And what's interesting about this is the disciples had already experienced and seen firsthand the power of God through Jesus Christ, but yet they're fearful for their lives. Well, that just shows they're just human, just like we are. That's a natural, reaction. It doesn't mean that they're bad. They lacked faith, of course, which we all do in so many areas. But the Bible tells us that Jesus got to rebuke the storm, and the seas and the water and the winds just had a great calm. The Bible used that word great, a great calm, okay? Not gradually, but a great calm. It was amazing. That even the disciples said this: who can this be that even the winds and the sea obey him? That's the power of our God, my friends. Now let's look at the chorus. Chorus says, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. It's important for us to understand that fear will imprison you. Fear will tie you under bondage, especially with what we're going on as a nation in the world. There's a lot of fear. I'm going to make something very clear. There's a difference between being wise and being fearful. God wants us to be wise during any circumstance, especially what we're going through today, but not to be fearful, because that fear will get our focus off God, and it makes us focus on the big problem instead of focusing on something that's bigger than the problem, which is God himself. So just remember that. 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. The scripture is basically telling us that God has given us as believers. He's given us all the spiritual resources that we need, okay, for every trial, for every threat, and for every circumstance and every storm. We've been given those, okay? And with these spiritual resources, we have the strength to love God and to love others during our trials. Through this strength, we've also been given the power to be disciplined, mentally disciplined, and have self-control in our mind during these circumstances. This is the opposite of fear that causes disorder and confusion. I love how Pastor David always says a statement, without order, there's chaos. God brings order into chaos, and God is bringing order into our lives right now. You know, not just with the virus, but I'm sure many of you are going through some stuff right now. God will bring that chaos and order if we allow him to come in. We allow him to come in and let his light shine on that darkness. Now the bridge says this, your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. And again, that light refers to Jesus as being the light of the world. John 8:12 states, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. That's beautiful. The song continues to say, your name cannot be overcome. And again, death, not even death can overcome the power of God. And we just celebrate that this Sunday on Easter, and we celebrate every day as Christians and believers. But not even death can overcome the power of God. And the next line states, your name is alive forever and lifted high. And that is in the hearts of believers. It's in our hearts forever, and we lift him high and praise him. Psalms 86:12 tells us, I will praise you, O Lord my God, with all my heart, and I will glorify your name forever. That word is forever, not just on weekends, not only when things get bad, but even during the good times. We will worship and glorify God forever. And finally, it says at the end, your name will not be overcome. And again, we will not be overcome, my friends. In one of the many bands I was in a lot of bands over my career of music. There's a band called Shaka. And Shaka is a Hebrew word for worship. It's to bow down and worship God. And we had a song called Overcome. I'm just going to read the chorus part to you guys. It just came to mind when I was putting this together. And it says, we shall overcome evil with good. We cannot let the world get the best of us. I love that line. Hold your head up, soldier, march with me onto the glory while I rock the beat. And again, we need to have the mentality of soldiers to be prepared for everything, prepared for every scenario. But as soldiers of Christ, to place our trust in him, he is our leader. He's the one who directs us. He's the one we get wisdom from. He's the one we get strength from. And when we do that, we will overcome. And the Bible talks about so many men and women that have overcome so many obstacles in life, so many situations, so many storms and circumstances at high levels, man. But I want to just close with this, with someone that I'm close to here in our world today. His name is Pastor Bob Exley. I had the honor of serving with him as a youth pastor and assisting pastor at his church. And he's also been one of my mentors, and we're still friends. I love this guy. But man, the story of Bob Exley, let me put it this way. His son is a filmmaker, and his son made a documentary about his dad's life, just where he's at. You know, it's a miracle that he's alive. It's a miracle that he's not in prison anymore. But before Pastor Bob came to the Lord, he lived a life of crime, drug addict, you just name it. Just the stories that he's shared with me, it just blows my mind that he's still alive. But he lived a life of drugs, a life of crime. What I mean by that, you know, he had to rob and steal to be able to support his drug habit, but he was also affiliated with the Aryan Nation and several other gangs. Make a long story short, he ended up in prison for 14 years. 14 years. And it was towards the end of his imprisonment that the prison chapel led him to the Lord. And what I mean by led to the Lord, there was a transition, there's a transformation in his life. The Bible calls it metamorphosis, where you change, you just totally change dramatically from the old to the new, your new creation. Well, that took place with Pastor Bobby. God delivered him from his drugs, God delivered him from that lifestyle. But his wife also, she was also involved in drugs, involved in that type of life too. And God delivered her and healed them both. But they still struggled. They both overcame some incredible storms in their lives. I mean, incredible storms of their lives. Storms of life and death, to be honest with you. But even after that, they faced other storms. What I mean by that is that Bob reminds me of the Apostle Paul. If you're familiar with the Apostle Paul was responsible for a lot of Christians being dead and being executed. And then Paul, of course, had his road to Damascus experience where God transformed him and revealed himself to him. So Paul went from being the hunter to the hunted. And when you study God's word, we come to realize and learn that Paul was trying to get together with the disciples, but the disciples were like, no way, bro, because they had a hard time believing this guy really changed. This is a guy that was trying to have us killed, have us arrested. They thought that he was just using this as a cover-up to find out where all the other Christians were so they can go arrest them and execute them, but that wasn't the case. And that's what happened with Bob. And what you need to know is, I know a lot of pastors that have been in prison for many years. And when they get out, they're still looked upon as cons and as criminals, especially the ones who come out changed. The authorities believe that it's just a cover-up, it's not real, that they're just doing that to cover up some illegal activity, which is not true. So Pastor Bobby had a hard time, but he kept on pursuing, and they overcame that. And the beauty of this, of what God was doing in Bobby's life, and still is to this day, he's a pastor of a church still out in the town of Yucca Valley. And once he gave his life to the Lord, Christ came in and dispelled the darkness in his life. Christ came in and dispelled the darkness in his wife's life. And now God is shining his light in them and through them. That is dispelling the darkness out of other people's lives. What are you going through today? What circumstances are you facing? What trials and storms are you going through? Where you're just being hovered by this darkness, this cloud of toxic thinking, this cloud of fear, you're being in prison. Because whatever it is, just remember that God is bigger than that. God is bigger than your problem, and he has the power to come in and dispel that darkness out of your life. But we have to make that effort to place our trust in him. Friends, don't allow your circumstances to cause tremble over your life and your faith. Allow God to tremble out your circumstances. Again, I love you guys, miss you guys. Looking forward to when we all get together again and start serving and impacting our community. But you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you later, all right? God bless. Bye.